Hey guys, I'm back here again for a new video, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about my favorite summer movies. Now, not all these movies take place during the summertime, but these are just movies that I just really enjoy watching during the summertime and during this time of year. I got a good variety of movies. Some of these are movies for like teenagers and kids, and then I have some horror movies I'm going to show off at the end as well. But this is not a definitive list. These are just some movies that I enjoy watching. So yeah, guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, whenever I think about summertime, I always remember when I was a little kid and just how excited I was for summer. I got off from school and I got a chance to spend time with my friends. So any movie that is about a group of friends going out and having adventures and just enjoying not having to go to school and just having fun with each other are definitely movies that I really think capture what summer is all about. And one of the movies that I think really captures it is The Sandlot. Now, this is a classic movie, and this movie is, pretty much just what I think, every, childhood summer feels like for a lot of people. This movie is, it's got a group of friends that they want to play baseball, and it's just all about them just enjoying summertime and all the fun that comes with being a kid during the summertime, like going to the fair or having, sleepovers and up in tree houses and telling scary stories and just going on adventures. And I think this movie really captures it. And I know this movie is a favorite for a lot of people when they were kids. I actually didn't see this movie until I was a little bit older, so I didn't grow up with it as much as other people did. But once I first saw it, I knew why this movie is a classic and a movie that so many people grew up with and so many people love, because it really does capture what it's like being a kid during summer vacation. Going to the pool, hanging out with your friends, telling ghost stories, just making s'mores around the fire and everything. Of course, you got the classic scene, you want a s'more? How can I have some more if I haven't had any? You're killing me, Smalls. This movie has so many just great lines, and I really do think that it really captures, just kids having a great time during summer vacation. So I always love watching this. And another movie that I think captures it as well is Stand By Me, but this one captures it, I think, in more of an emotional way, whereas The Sandlot is definitely a lot more lighthearted. This movie is a lot more emotional and kind of dark. It's these kids going on a trip to find this dead body. But there's of course so many classic scenes and so many scenes of them just having conversations that like kids would have when they were younger. What would I eat if I could only eat one thing ever? That's easy. Pez. Cherry Pez. Stuff like that really has nothing to do with the story, but they're conversations that young kids have with their friends. And I think that's why this movie is so realistic in capturing, the childhood fun of summertime. I actually kind of wish this movie was a PG-13, so more kids would have been able to see it, or more teenagers would have been able to see it when they were younger, because it is R, but I do kind of wish that it was at least PG-13, so more younger kids would have seen it, because I really do think that Stand By Me is one of the most definitive looks at, childhood, just childhood fun during the summertime. And then, of course, you can't have a summer, favorite summer list without The Goonies. Again, the definitive movie of a group of kids going out on an adventure, trying to find something. But actually, this movie does actually take place in the fall time. So you could actually watch it, leading up to Halloween if you wanted to. But I'm still going to include it because most people watch it during the summertime. And like I said, it really has, just the feeling of going out with your friends and just having a good time. Of course, in this one, it's a total fantasy, going out and trying to find buried treasure. But I mean, what group of friends wouldn't wish that they found, you know, buried treasure or found a bunch of money? But yeah, The Goonies, definitely up there. Now, these next two movies are two personal films for me, and that is My Girl and My Girl 2. My Girl was one of the first movies that I ever saw, and it's definitely a really emotional film. And My Girl 2 is a lot more lighthearted, but of course they both take place in the summertime in Pennsylvania back in the 60s. And they're both great films to watch around the summertime. But of course, you know, My Girl is definitely more of an emotional movie. And it's one movie that I only try to watch once because it is an emotional film. And it is kind of a bit, you know, hard close to the end. You know, it definitely deals with some a few dark themes. But both of these movies are definitely great summer feeling. All right, now the next one, pretty much any movie that takes place on the beach or during the summertime are movies that put me in the summer feeling. And Lords of Dogtown is another one. Of course, this movie is about, you know, skateboarding in Los Angeles and just how it sort of began. And this is a really great movie. I actually saw this movie back when I was skateboarding, and I remember just absolutely loving it. It tells the story of the Z Boys, which are a group of, you know, in this movie they were teenagers who basically became skateboarding legends. And this movie does take place, you know, around the beach and all that. And it's a really, really great movie, and definitely one that I always enjoy going back to. Now, this next movie is one that I think is a definitive, you know, school's out, you know, end of the school year movie. And that is Dazed and Confused. And this movie, to me, really captures the idea of teenagers, you know, they're leaving high school and they don't really know what they're going to do with their lives. And so they're having one final big party to celebrate, you know, just finally being done with school. And you follow a group of teenagers, you know, that are both leaving school, and then you have, you know, a couple of young teenagers are about to go into high school, and kind of just the passing of the torch, I guess. You know, I mean, you know, kind of just saying, you know, hey, you know, now this is what you're gonna do. And I really think that Dazed and Confused really does capture the, you know, just the last day of school and the excitement of, you know, being done with it and about to go out and just enjoy summer vacation with your friends. And I really do think this is one of, if not the best teen movies of all time. So this is definitely one that I always love watching. This next one is one of my all-time favorite comedies, and that is Joe Dirt. This movie always puts me in the summer feeling because, you know, it does take place during the summertime, but it has a lot of classic rock music in it. And I always, whenever I think about summertime, I think about my dad, because that was his favorite time of the year, was summer, and he brought me up on classic rock and roll. So whenever I listen to rock and roll music, I always think about him, and I think about summertime. But I've always loved this movie. It does have a few goofier moments in it, but it's always been one of my favorite comedies. Now, another movie, this is actually an animated movie, and any movie that takes place in the ocean puts me in a summer mood. Finding Nemo, that's definitely one. I remember when I first saw this movie, and I was really impressed by just how, you know, kind of realistic the fish, you know, they acted, because when they were making this movie, the animators studied fish so much because they wanted to make their movements as realistic as possible. And, you know, just everything about it, the sea and everything is just beautiful in this movie. And it's definitely one that I haven't watched in a few years, and I do plan on revisiting it this year because I really did enjoy it. I still have not seen Finding Dory, but I do have it, and I do plan on watching it at some time this summer. But yeah, Finding Nemo. Now, these next couple movies, or three movies, I should say, don't take place in the summer, or they don't really have, you know, exactly a summer feeling, but the Mummy movies, you know, the scenes of them out in the desert and all that, kind of puts me in the summer feeling, so I do enjoy watching these this time of year. And then another movie that, you know, kind of takes place in a desert town is the original Tremors. Now, I love this movie, and I actually personally really enjoyed the first three films. I thought the fourth one was okay, and I thought the fifth one was fine. I have not seen the last two, but the first Tremors movie is definitely one that I will go out of my way to watch around this time of year. And then, of course, one of the best summer movies, Jaws. Of course, you know, going to the beach and all that, this movie really captures that. Although I will say, you know, it's definitely a movie that, you know, it's not really a good beach movie because it's about a shark killing people. But this movie still does get me in the summer feeling. I also really enjoy Jaws 2, and the scenes of the teenagers going out on boats and stuff like that, that always puts me in a good summer feeling as well. So definitely Jaws and Jaws 2 are two of them that I always try to watch around summertime. I actually don't mind Jaws 3, and Jaws Revenge is definitely the worst, but occasionally I will watch them because they do take place in the summertime. And the last few are a couple of horror movies. First one is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And this movie really captures just a dirty, gritty, you know, Texas summer. Like, every scene in this movie makes you feel dirty. And, you know, this movie is just so raw, and you just feel uncomfortable, I think, watching it. But it's still a movie that I enjoy watching during the summertime. And then, of course, you can't have a list of summer horror films without the Friday the 13th movies. I just watched this last night, and I plan on doing a marathon of all the sequels today and probably tomorrow. But yeah, just, of course, you know, Friday the 13th. And then another summer horror movie, Sleepaway Camp. You know, just another one that I always got to watch. Any movie that takes place in the camp or takes place in the woods always kind of puts me in the summer feeling. But yeah, guys, so those are all the movies that I wanted to show off. There are a lot of others. The Great Outdoors with John Candy is another great family one that I really enjoy watching. I have not seen Summer Rental, but I have heard that one is a great summer film as well. But there's so many summer movies I could have talked about. I just wanted to narrow it down to just a quick list. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys who have watched my last video. I really appreciate that. My entire Friday the 13th collection. And I do plan on being back. Like I said, I've only got a few more weeks of work. And then after that, I'll be off for 2 weeks, and I'll be posting a lot of videos during then. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope everybody had a great Friday the 13th, and I'll see you guys in the next video.